Hello everyone, welcome to Meshery Development Call. Today is December 27th and almost the last development meeting before this year ends, so that's cool. And if you're new on this call and you don't know, Meshery is a CNCF project which helps you manage your Kubernetes cluster and your Kubernetes application as in across multiple environments, and it's a way of infrastructure as code in a collaborative way. And before moving forward with the agenda items, there are a couple of housekeeping items. One is like if you're joining live from the Zoom call, ensure that you add your you mark your attendance in the this meeting minutes. And the second thing is let's ensure that any newcomers are given an opportunity to introduce themselves, which is one of our traditions. Let's see. I think Ahmed Jamil, are you new on this call?
Yeah, so no, I attended the last website meeting.
Okay, actually,
So,
even if you have joined some other call, a different community call, but not this specific one, even
oh,
that's an opportunity to introduce.
oh, okay, okay. So yeah, hi guys, I'm Ahmed. So I'm from Pakistan. I'm a final year student here, and my tech stack is basically I focused on backend development and frameworks like Django and SJS, and looking forward to contribute. Also, I'm learning Go so that I can communicate or contribute in the project.
That's cool. Thanks for joining. I think Shivam Pandey, are you new on this call? Do you like to introduce? Okay. In case you are having any network. Okay.
Hi Pranav.
Hello.
I just got to know about Meshery and I'd like to join the community meetings and all. Thank you.
Pratyush, Madhu, are you also new on this call? Would you like to introduce yourselves? Okay, I think they left. Abhishek, are you also joining this for the first time? I think there are some network challenges. You can also introduce yourself on the chat. Um, so I think let's. Okay, there's one more. I people are still joining. Rapul, in case hope I'm pronouncing your name correctly. Would you like to introduce? I think they left. Okay, then let's start. The first item is from Sinali on workspaces. Sinali, would you like to get going on the first item?
So here we introduce the workspace for the Meshery UI. So we have open PR for that one. Like this is same. We have same workspaces in Meshery Cloud extension as well. So this is same thing we use in Meshery UI. So here we have specific workspaces for the organization. So user can assign environment designs for their workspaces from this UI. Like here, we have to select the existing environments and assign them to the workspace. So like that, uh, so already we have the design as well, but there are a lot of designs. We need to implement that scroll loading. Uh, Due to that reason, I have disabled it for now. Same as like we can create and also we can edit the existing environments.
Regarding, okay, that looks good. I was wondering regarding connections. I think we cannot directly assign a connection to the workspace. We have to assign it to an environment. So is it just a placeholder or just wanted to confirm?
Uh, right now, we don't have any functionality there. Like um, most of them, the teams also, I think, not work in Meshery UI, I think. So we can remove them.
Okay.
For the creation of the workspace and editing workspace, the model that opens for that, I guess you are using the RGSF schema, right?
Yes,
And where you are storing that RGSF schema inside the UI itself or in the schema repo?
it is from the schema repo, which we have already used uh, cloud as well. The same schema I have used here as well.
Okay, thank you. We also might add the I button. I think yesterday we were talking about. So the model that you are I think using supports the I button. So you just need to pass a prop and the there is one I button inside when you publish a design. So that I button you can redirect user to the what workspace to and for environment, what environment is and everything. So in that I button you can add that.
Just
So
one more.
I have, yeah, I have a doubt regarding the users tab also. Do we need that one as here? Like those are not constructed in Visual UI.
Yes, actually, last time when we discussed that if someone wants to manage the identity, that is users, organizations, or teams, then they have to like go to the identity provider, that is cloud, and if they want to manage their infrastructure, then they will do that from here. So, like, I'm not sure if we want to support users as well right now, but we can discuss that over if anybody has any other opinions.
I think from my side we can remove it because if we will manage the teams and the users, then uh, it will like most of the work we will do in the Meshery rather Meshery cloud. But yeah,
Anybody has any other opinions or suggestions for Sinali?
Yeah, I'm also like in for removing it from every the users and teams from this.
I have
So,
one thing.
yeah,
Yeah, I have one thing about UI. Like, I guess you are working already on on enhancing the UI. So the arrows that we are using in the card, like we are using two different cards. Like if you can make those consistent, like, because one.
so yeah, because I have two different icons due to like in cloud we have some this button are redirect to another page. So redirections I use this icon for transfer modality. Yeah, I use that one. So when we removing all those things, I think we don't no need to use two type of
Like okay, but the pointer of both the icons that you for both the arrows, like for the transform model and the redirect, like the tip of the arrow is different. So like we can just use the arrow that have the same tips.
Oh, okay. I will look into that.
Like Sonali, that you have made that transfer model insistent. Is it like completed or something is left?
No, actually, we have to first implement the scroll loading. So until we implement the scroll loading, like it is not completed. So after when we implement it, it's fully scroll load. uh, enable here. After that, I think it is possible to complete that and use it here.
Yes, regarding the enhancement to API, I already have the changes. I have to just push. We can discuss later on. I've already made some other enhancement. Yes, so it should be done today.
So like regarding the component in system, so I think you would make a component that would be more specific to this, but if you would do one thing like you would create the transfer component that would be pretty generic with scroll loading. So like that should not depend on the API, it should be generic that we can inherit for other purpose. So it would be easy to create new components on that. So one would be a base component and another one would be a specific component for these things.
Okay, I will look into that as well. So I think the anyway the transfer modal component should be support for the scroll loading if it is used here or any other place.
Yeah.
Okay.
By the way, last question, like what we are showing backside of this workspace?
Yeah, right now it doesn't show anything like, but we have in cloud we show the recent activities. I think we can show here as well the recent activities.
I think we can also add the owner of the workspace. We can add that in the
Yeah, like I think when we use that recent activities, it shows already shows the owner. I think.
Uh, It's like organization workspace is not owned by a user but an organization. So I think that could be the reason you're not seeing it. Okay, so
One last thing, Sanai, like in the Meshery cloud, like on the card for the workspace, like, we are using the Capel green. So either we can just use the same Capel green inside the Meshery UI, behind below background of the card, like the buttons, the user designs, the environment. Yeah.
Yeah,
Or
but in Meshery UI, like we have all the buttons in this color. That's why I have changed it to this one. But when we move to dark mode, it is Keppel green. I think. Yeah,
okay, okay, right, makes sense.
here I think you guys.
Okay.
But I still have the same, like previously I was having the question like we were having two different kinds of theme in the Mishri cloud in the Mishri. I was thinking like we can have a same theme color for like theme color for the action in the Mishri cloud in the Mishri because the Capel green looks good in a light mode also. So it can be a consideration that we can take. But yeah, that's just a thought that I'm sharing.
Yeah, but like when we will have the assistant completely, then we can have the same in both the Meshery cloud as well as Meshery AI. So
Yeah, makes sense.
Okay, any other suggestions for Sonali? Okay, then thank you, Sonali, and everyone for your great suggestions. I think next item is from me. Okay, so I'm sharing my screen. Hopefully my screen is visible. So the first thing is like a recent bug fix that I made for our policy evaluation for tax end. Like there are a lot of things to discuss, but if you are new and you don't know, like Meshery has a way of organizing different um, constructs for its integrations, and one of the way for having a relationship between different constructs is through a relationship, as well as the other thing is policy, which is used for evaluating the relationship when you're on the canvas. So there is tag set. Tag set is like grouping based on labels and annotations, which you might be aware of if you have used Kubernetes in the past. So there was an issue. I should directly come here actually. So the issue was like when you have a lot of group set, that is a number of things are like grouped based on same matching labels, or having same key but different values, things like that. So this specific design like was like, let's say this is a design, and I can go to this place and I can just add these key value app key, bespoke tiered backend. So earlier the problem was the only the first tags were being used for grouping and the rest of them were not being evaluated properly. So there was very small looping issue wherein the correct key was not being used while evaluation. So I just fixed that, and now like no matter how many groups you make, it works almost every side. It works in every case, so you can just try it. It's already merged. And I've also like modularized our policy wherein like I'm not reusing the same kind of code for two different tags. Rather, I've made two functions. For one is for grouping the nodes, the other one is for getting unique keys. And like that's the only update regarding this. And I have to actually like first, any questions on this? I have to ask one thing. Anybody has any questions? By the way, in case you are new, you can read on documentation. Like this kind of stuff is explained in detail about what is models, relationships, and what is this specific kind of relationship. So, okay, in case there is no question, I have to ask one thing. The thing is like this specific design also has annotations, but I don't know why, even though we are getting the eval for annotation, but this UI is not showing that. So I wanted to ask like either Abid or Uzair, do you know about this? See, like
Actually,
we
like
have,
if you try enabling from the like, is it enabled for
yeah, it is.
yeah?
It is enabled.
Like, is there any format change inside for annotations or any kind of change?
No. Oh, okay. Oh shit. I realized actually I missed the S.
Oh, yeah.
I just realized like I don't know, like I had missed it. So yeah, that was the thing. Yeah. I think by mistake I did it. Okay, I'll just fix it. So it's my mistake only. So thanks. Okay, so the next thing is okay, so there was the next considering there's no more questions on that, the next thing is like as we're discussing about bringing the logical constructs of environments and workspace into Meshery so that users can not only group but share their resources across different teams and other organizations. So there is also a construct of environment, like one is workspace, another one is environment. Environment is like for grouping your connections, workspace is for grouping your environments, teams and design, stuff like that. Moreover, like if you don't know, connection environment workspace is like your Google Drive, while environment is like your Google Doc. So it's you can also sort of relate in that sense. So recently there was an ask of adding a direct linkage between connections and environment from this UI. So if I could should directly go there. Um, So yeah, so basically now what you'll see is based on what organization you have selected. So in case you don't know where you can go, you have to go to your preferences. You'll see a new tab spaces, and there you can select any of your organizations. In case you want to create, you have to go somewhere else. But in case you already have organizations, you can select any of them, and you can go to your connections page. And in case you have an environment, you can directly link from here, let's say Meshery demo. It will automatically assign the specific connection to that environment. So basically now you can share this environment with others, so they will also have the exact same connection. You can of course delete it, and at the same time you can create a brand new environment as well. So um, let's say you want to create a new environment, you can just type a name and it will just create the environment. As at the same time it will also assign it. I realize there's a UI issue, but other than that, like, this is the flow. So any questions on this? Anybody has any questions?
I was testing like are we able to check that checkbox? Because
Yeah, yes, you can.
okay.
And
Like one small UI issues, like when we click on the expanded row also opens, if you can
yeah,
like stop that event bubbling. And other than that, just a small question is like why we call the organizations spaces in the preferences while we call it orgs in Meshery Cloud. Because we
yeah,
use spaces for, I think, workspaces in Meshery Cloud, if I'm right.
yeah, actually, yeah. The reason is like I didn't like I thought like in currently in the use of organization is only for workspace and environment in this Meshery's UI. So that was the reason, like, because I think we have discussed earlier, like we don't want to explicitly call out organization. So I think that was the reason. But yeah, I think it makes sense to actually call this organization so that it's little more explicit and not difficult to understand.
And because
Yes.
we now also have, I think, workspaces, so it might get confused. Like, is
Mhm.
this a workspace letter on an orgs letter?
Yeah, yes, actually, yeah, I'll update this.
Yeah,
Thank you.
also, yeah,
Mhm.
also I have a like question like let's say if I'm a new user and I logged into my Mitchery account and I'm checking that out and there is an let's say we replace that with the organization or let's say we have that space. So it might be helpful if we have some kind of manage button which redirect me to the cloud to manage the organization stuff, or we can suggest that hey, if you want to manage all other things related to the organization, you may redirect to the cloud and you can manage all the things over there. And this is the default one that we created for like something that we can share with the user, because right now it is kind of like what either it is default for me and now what should I do? Like it is already selected for me. So like should I, because as an user it might be possible that I am not aware about the cloud. So it's a good place to let the user know, hey, you can use the cloud. That's I'm suggesting.
Yeah, actually, it makes sense, but I was just thinking like actually Meshery UI is an open source thing and that is a different thing. So I'm not sure if we can link directly, but yeah, we should discuss that.
Yeah.
That makes sense. We can probably direct to or a documentation that would be more legit. So yeah.
One last thing, like since the spaces and everything is a remote provider thing, so can't we move the spaces inside the remote provider tab itself instead of having it under general?
Yeah, actually, the thing is, this is not an extension point. This is an actual construct of Meshery, and this will only load when we have that capability. So that's the reason. Because if you log into local provider, then you won't have this, so you won't be able to. Any other questions?
Like just a small UI issue that when we are adding list of environments, then I think it's just expanding the row.
Yes. Yeah, actually, there's a ripple effect, I think. I'll look into that. Yeah, let's do the stop propagation, then it won't do that. I just wanted to highlight one thing, like I also created a new component, so we can likely move that to assistant. The reason for creating a new and not reusing any of the thing which you already have is because like the default functionality of creatable is that it doesn't support multi-select, but if we have multi-select then we cannot do creatable. So that's the issue. So I had to create a new thing. I just wanted to highlight that we can move this thing to our assistant and then import it. So yeah,
Yeah, actually, that would be great.
yeah. Okay. Yeah, this just all includes some RTK thing, and otherwise, yeah, that's the only thing. Okay, so considering there are no more questions, next thing is like there was a recent requirement of adding a new API so that we can get all the kinds of cube meshing resources, basically resources described by meshing. So yeah, this is a very small thing. I have added a new API, and yeah, like I've also resolved all the issues which Uzair pointed out. So we are good to merge here. I don't think any questions. Anybody has any questions on this?
Yeah, one question
No,
actually,
thanks.
like, does this relate to like getting all the connections, or that would be separate, like the
Yeah,
connection kinds, or
no,
is
no.
this
This
the
is
same
just for
thing?
meshing, but yeah, we have. I'll get add the connection kind. Actually, connection kind is already available. So
Oh,
if you there's a slash kinds API for connections which you can use.
yeah, I was
Oh, is
about
it?
to say that.
Oh,
Okay. Okay. So moving on, I think next is Uzair and Sinali. So Uzair, would you like to share?
Fully my screen is visible. So this item is particularly about the meshing connection registration. So in one of the previous meetings, and I showed the half done implementation of connection registration. So now it is complete. So first thing I need to clarify is like this connection process is this registration process is for the resources that Meshery integrates with. So for example, like Meshery has some of 250 plus integration. So this connection process is for managed connections, whereas if you want to register an unmanaged connection, for example, like GitHub, you need to navigate to Meshery Cloud. So the basic flow is like you come to this lifecycle page and head to meshing table, and there you will find like this all the discovered resources. So right now in my cluster, I have both deployed Prometheus and Grafana, and the only way I can communicate with this Prometheus and Grafana is via services. So because like the server is actually exposed by service, so I need to like register against service. So I will just like uh click on the status, and right now I have like okay. So and I will click on register, and it will show a drop down of like all the integrations or all the supported connections. So you can like choose it from. So I know that this service is exposing Grafana server. So I will click on Grafana connection, and then it will load the corresponding schemas and all the stuff, and it will like you will have two options. So with the help of meshing discovery, meshing will discover like this can be one or these are the endpoints that I have discovered, and if you want to choose from it, you can like simply select it and proceed to next. Or in case like you have your Grafana server behind a proxy or ingress, and meshing is not able to discover that, you can also manually enter the new connection name and the corresponding endpoint for it. And but because like I'm sure like this is the endpoint where my Grafana is exposed, so I'll click on this endpoint, and last like I need to make sure uh, that endpoint is actually exposed right now. So I will port forward my service for now. Okay. So after that, again, I have two options. So Grafana, while registering a Grafana connection, I could be asked for credential. So either I can choose one of the existing credentials. So I have like my Grafana credential is one credential I've already created, or else you can deselect from here and type in a new credential name and the corresponding secret uh, for your Grafana. But I will go ahead and choose an existing credential. Grafana. Then I will click on verify. And because like the credential was valid and everything was successful, I am like able to verify the connection and I can proceed next. In cases like the verification step is not successful, or you are aware that this verification would fail, but still you want to like bypass this verification step, then you can click this checkbox. And in this case, machine server will not wait for verifying the connection for its reachability, but bypass that step completely. So this then like added uh, functionality. There's some UI issue I need to look for. I
Uh,
mean, yeah, any feedback or question up till now?
No, I was just saying, I think this was because your cursor was already selected somewhere. That's why you were
Yeah.
facing the problem.
So one question, like just for this phase
Mhm.
is like, while we show the like credentials, we show all the kinds of credits like for Prometheus, also for
Yeah,
Kubernetes.
so
Can we only filter it down to what
yeah, I
we
was
selected it?
yeah. I'm about to say that like yeah, I'm like if Yash or I can like or any of the cloud contributors can add an API such that the way we had for like connections. So if you for connections API we have a like kind path parameter so that when you do that you will only get those specific kind of connections. So for a credential as well, if Yash can create an API quickly or else I will do that. So this was like I was about to say, but yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so I will verify and it will connect and this is the last step of it. I just need to click on next and my new Grafana connection will be ready. Yeah, so you can see that here. The endpoint exposed is like a localhost 3000 and if I navigate to it, it will redirect to like my exposed Grafana server. Similar is the flow for Prometheus and any such connections or integration Meshery would support. The basic flow, the basic connection registration and credential registration flow would be same. Only the specifics will change according to the type of connection. And I think like we also need to add an Grafana metadata formatter because it should be an actually an chip and clicking on this chip should make an synthetic test the way we have for Kubernetes. Yeah, please, if any one of the contributors on the call would like to take that or it would be helpful. So any
I
questions
have
or any doubts regarding it?
Yeah, so I have a question. Like we do a little bit similar kind of thing inside the setting. Like we can add the Prometheus or Grafana, I guess.
Yeah.
So if you can share what is the difference between like adding over here and making a connection.
Yeah. So uh, like there is no difference, but because this Grafana and Prometheus, this telemetry provider thing was like existing like from from early times. So we are like keeping on this methodology. I mean, like this is an advanced configuration step. So in this step, you can also like uh, add a Prometheus or whatever Grafana that has been discovered by Meshery server. You can add that, but actually you can also like configure boards. So Grafana has concept of dashboards and Prometheus has like prom QL. So you can actually configure that thing as well in this metrics tab. But this functionality is not available inside the connection registration flow that I just showed. It is just like a connection wizard that you will like only registered and whatever deep integration that you want, you can do it via metrics tab. So this is the difference. But
Also,
right
it's
now, like
like
this page,
inside Meshlink, it can be like more than Prometheus and Grafana. We can
yeah, it could be
upgrade
like
any other connections.
any of the 250 integrations. Anyone think like this so any of the steps is like confusing or not clear, or else I can move further.
So now I think we cannot hear you.
Oh, sorry. I was saying if we move to one to, let's say out of the four, we do the first two step and then we close the model. Is it possible or like how's that handled?
Uh, can you repeat like if you are saying like
Yes.
if you terminate the step in
Yeah, in
between?
the middle. Yeah.
Yeah, you can terminate it, but after that you need to like again go through the start of the step. So like if I terminate it after the second step, I need to like go through the wizard again. So there is no state maintained in between.
Like one small thing, like I think this is a small UI issue, is like how we call like other statuses as discovered, but this one is registered. I think when we are showing it in the status, we should show it as is like discovered or registered, but in the drop down, we should just say register discover. So we know we're doing a transition. Right now, it's one is discovered and another is registered. It's a bit confusing.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, actually, like I think we should not show this discovered in this dropdown. So this is the
Yeah.
current state for the discovered, and after you have like registered a connection, that entry will not be shown uh inside this meshing table. So yeah, similar. I think here also disconnected, not found, deleted. The adding the past
Yeah.
tense is not appropriate. Yeah. Can anyone of you take that item? Okay, I will proceed further. The other item was like enhancement in meshing. So the thing that I talked about, like the meshing discovery and all the discovering the services and doing the pre-processing and fingerprinting. So it is done via meshing controller. If you want to know more about like what meshing controller is, someone can drop the link to the docs website and point to the fingerprinting process. So the issue with the meshing was like uh, whatever resources that you need to watch for or want to discover, you need to explicitly list them. But if you see, Kubernetes has concept of extension point, which is via CRD, and there are like thousands of CRDs, and it is not practically possible to list each of the group resource and version for those resources. So having a generic dynamic shared informer makes sense. So this PR adds that enhancement. And if you want to know more about like what is a shared informer, so shared informer is a way to watch for changes in your cluster and maintain a global shared cache from which uh, you can take that you can take data from that shared cache and do whatever processing you want. So this PR was around making that informer generic and removing the static listing of the resources. The other enhancement in meshing was uh, if you go in Meshery code base and in this particular app.js file, we will find that we are doing some kind of pre-process. We are doing kind of processing on all the resources discovered by meshing. So actually, this should be a part of the meshing itself. So meshing was not intelligent enough and was not doing that processing. So this PR ensures that whenever a new resource is discovered, all the corresponding processors that have been written gets invoked and they do the processing, and after that 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 resource is notified to the connected clients, in this case Meshery server. So right now there is a pre-processor added only for Kubernetes services. So if you want to add a new processor for like deployment or config map or any of the resources, you just need to implement this process func interface, and the other thing would be carried implicitly. So you don't need to care about like invoking that function. You just need to implement this function and add the entry in here. If Daniel was on the call, he might be interested, or but I don't think he is. So any questions in this meshing enhancement then?
Yeah, what's the interval by which the new custom resources are discovered?
So there's no interval, so it is like dynamic. As soon as uh, the informer itself identifies like there is a watch invoked. So as soon as as soon as that watch is informed, we reinitialize the discovery. So it is no
Yeah.
specific interval.
Educate me. What do we watch for? What endpoint or what resource do we watch for
We
new?
watch for API extensions.kx. So this is the group, and the resource is custom resource definitions. Yeah. Having no more questions, I can move forward.
Maybe just one other, if I could. The additional interrogation or the additional identification that happens with respect to specific types of resources, like Prometheus or specific type of workloads, I should say. That's happening in a dedicated pipeline.
Yes, it is part of the pipeline.
Okay.
Not a dedicated pipeline, but inside the same pipeline.
Okay. And I know that, yeah. So it currently is designed with the intention for that to be augmented dynamically. augmented based on different new models being registered, new models being imported, and those maybe, I don't know whether it's from the model or from the registrar, that they might define specific attributes of a composite key that, that would actually, further identify the specific workload type. Is that
So
is that the
right now,
direction?
like, yeah, it should be the direction, but right now, like, there is no concept of models or registrants added. So it's just based on the resource, or you can assume corporate. So there is no addition of models in it.
Good. Maybe this is something that just as did you end up doing docs based on this PR, or
No,
will
no,
you?
like the talks, yeah, talks are pending for both of this enhancement. I will.
Okay. Okay. As you think through that, yeah, I don't just, I don't know that there necessarily needs to be the concept of models or Meshery model here. But to the extent that Meshery server is able to register a composite key, and that as a unit, like as individual composite keys, the pipeline, and maybe there would be a dedicated one at some point as like a second tier, or maybe it's a first tier if everything's performing well. But that those composite keys, when matched, you're in that moment, you're enriching the discovered the records, that the messages that get sent back to Meshery server, you're enriching them with specifics. Is it basically the same message, but it's now pre-qualified, like now has some additional attributes, or what's the difference between? Yeah.
Yes, they have like some additional attributes, right? For example, like the capabilities that resource can support. So whether that resource can be upgraded to connections, or so for example, like if it has like some of the additional info, so that additional info is like pre-processed and extracted and added as a separate attribute, so that clients can directly use that instead of like
Okay. Okay, final question, I think, for you. That is, so like using Prometheus as the example, to the extent that there's a workload that's discovered that matches those attributes that we denote as meaning that it's Prometheus, like basically that there's a new resource that's discovered that matches the composite key for Prometheus. The effect of that is that MeshSync, that some of that work is now offloaded to MeshSync, and it enriches the message such that that new record, that new resource, is identified not as a generic Kubernetes deployment, but is now identified, like, I guess in this case, actually, it's identified as being aligned with, well, ideally, like with the model that, or one of the models that Meshery uses to interact with and provision Prometheus. Maybe that's not what's happening right now, but is that the ideal goal? Because when you talk about capabilities, those capabilities stemming from a model or a component, I suppose. Yeah.
Yeah, so that whatever additional info that is being added includes includes additional info, like what is the model for that, what is the SVGs, and what are the basically all the metadata for that, all the metadata that has been registered as part of Meshery registry.
Okay, nice. Yeah, so it gets it lined up to match against a component or to match against a model. And so,
Yes.
okay, that's wonderful.
And the other small enhancement was like I added an API so that we can not only retrieve these meshing resources, but also if we want, we can also delete the resources by ID. This was required so that, because when you upgrade or discover resources to a connection, so that resource should not be visible inside meshing entry. So because that will create confusion. So this was a small API enhancement.
So there was an existing flush for a mesh sync. that just does a dump of the entire, I guess, record set.
Yes.
And this is a more surgical one. So
Yeah. So
adding,
by ID, like individual resources and not the entire table.
Thanks, Uzair, for your great update. Next up, we have Abid on Meshery embedding package. Abid, would you like to go?
Yeah, sure. So this is a small update from my side. So the design embedding concept for Meshery has been for around like 1-2 months right now, and we're previously supporting embedding the designs into vanilla HTML JS sites, and it was working fine. But recently we ended up having hurdles where we had some hurdles where we were embedding our designs inside React apps or any like dynamic JS frameworks. So this is a package for right now for embedding the designs inside React or any of its meta frameworks like Gatsby or Next.js. And this package was actually released yesterday, and we can now easily import our designs or actually embed our designs inside React site. So all we need to is to install the package and just pass the script that we can download from Meshmap, and we would have a design embedded inside our React app. So embedding, like downloading the script and other things, are pretty easy. You can just get a design and export it as an embed, and here we can download the script. So we need to actually update the documentation for this and also the instructions here in Meshery. I think some contributors already working on that. This is our extension endpoint where we can download this embedding. Any questions on this?
has any thought been given to the possibility of the replacement of snapshots with embeds in the cloud catalog?
Yeah, really, as compared to simple PNG snapshots. So that would be bad in terms of performance. Like on average, they can have a size of 130 KB or something like that. But we can have even that. Just can embed it.
So maybe on the, sorry, I didn't know if you were, didn't mean to interrupt, but it may be worth an investigation to display just on the single page that's dedicated just for.
Yeah. I was going to suggest that, like, for when we open a catalog item, then we can display it. But then we would need a bit of enhancements in the snapshot thing. Like it would be a few more steps to get the embed script and also place it inside and store it somewhere.
Like, the snapshot workflow can like produce multi-artifact things. So it could be a snapshot and as well as as an embed script, and that embed script can be remotely referenced, right? Like it doesn't need to have a local copy.
Yeah.
Right? So,
yeah.
Yeah.
So also, like, one benefit from that we can get a like side effect benefit will be like we can also share that remotely references script to our users, so they don't need to download it themselves, so they can also take benefit from that. But like we previously, I think, discussed, we might use that approach to store it in some GitHub repo. That would be the same thing. You would get both the benefits.
Somehow psychologically, the fact that there's a package to be used just helps with the idea that embeds might be used in a catalog, even though if you still just had one central JavaScript file to reference, it wouldn't be that much different than just importing in a package. But so somehow it feels a lot cleaner, and maybe brings the possibility of using embeds in the single catalog item page. Maybe a possibility. it sounded like, refresh my memory if you would, are some of the annotation, some of the relationships that are defined within a given design, do not all of those layers get captured inside of a snapshot at the moment?
Yeah, actually, like that's the case for both snapshots and embeddings. Like anything that's not native to Cytoscape at the moment won't be captured either in embeddings or in the snapshot. But I think for snapshots, the workaround should be pretty easy. We might be able to get around it easily.
Okay, any other suggestions for Rabbit? Questions?
I wonder if there are individuals on this call that might want to be one of the first or the first even to try out this new package, because this is just hours old at this point, right? The first package. Okay. I don't know. There's some new folks on the call that might want to make a name for themselves here. Just kind of, there's like 6 of them actually. I don't know. They look like nice people. They look like people that are here to do something. I just not sure. They might be too shy to try it, too embarrassed, too afraid of failure. I don't know. It's got to be a whole new year though. You're gonna have to decide what you're gonna do with it.
Yeah, sure. So I'm new on the call. I think I might try it. I think I understand the bit, like how it is
I'll
used.
share a link to the package.
Yeah, sure. So yeah, I think I might try it out. Yeah. Thanks for the link.
Thank you, Abid, and everyone else. I think next topic we have is from Yash. Yash, would you like to go?
Yeah, sure. Let me share my screen. Okay, so there is one thing that for the connection API, I added the filters inside the cloud, but the Meshery, we also need to update the Meshery APIs to make sure that Meshery APIs also calls the filters. So this isn't just a small update that make sure that Meshery also have the filter support in the connection. There was a small review from Uzair, I guess. I fixed it and I also posted, not sure, but yeah. After that, it will be ready to merge. So yeah. And if there is any question on this, I didn't add it because Cloud API also supports the kind in the status params, but there is a separate APIs for that, and there was no use, so I didn't add it for in this right now. But if there is a requirement, I can add that. For kind and status, we already have the separate APIs, so.
So basically, which thing is filtered through this API? I think I missed.
You can you can filter the types and the subtypes. You can pass the types and the subtypes, and on the basis of that, you can filter them.
Not status, right?
For status, I guess we already have a separate API.
Okay.
Status is like supported by query parameter. I have previously added that. You can use that.
Thank you. The second thing is I was actually regarding this issue. So in Meshery, for those are new, in Meshery we are introducing the permission framework in which user will be allowed to do some kind of action on the base of what kind of roles they get assigned. And I created this issue to track down all the tasks that we will be doing to make sure that Castle is properly. Castle is the framework that we are going to implement inside the Meshery UI. And I created this issue to track down all the tasks that need to be done to do that. And the first one is to integrate the Castle, which is already done by Mohit, I guess. So I added this. We have the second thing to add the keys, expose the keys inside as a capability inside the Meshery UI. So I was checking, so I realized that we already exposing the keys in the Meshery. Friedish already added that. So there was some issues because there were a couple of enhancements we have made from them in the keys and have the organization. So those enhancements and the issues that need to be made, I edit that inside this new PR, in which there were a couple of nil pointer issues was coming, and also the path of the URL was now supporting the organization. So I updated that and yeah, created this PR. So I also said, because this handler, I also created a new handler for the keys to manage it, because this handler is added inside the users manage handler. So it was making the line of code big. So I created a separate handler. So this is a small other issue. So these are the two updates I have. If you have any other question, after that I will be working on seeding keys in for the local provider. And yeah, if anybody have any question.
Actually, just a small question regarding the previous thing, actually, the filtering on connections. Like, if you like, is it also like a query param as the status and kinds are right now? So did you add the subtype and type as a query param?
Actually, that's type and subtype you can pass in the filter, not as a query param, but kind and status you can pass as
I
a
think
query
like
param.
we should do the same, like we should pass it also as a query param, so we remain consistent and it's easy to do it on UI. Otherwise on UI we need to know like how is query like status passed in and how is the kind passed in and how is like, then it makes UI a bit messy. So we would stay consistent with the APIs. And I think we should just do it for all the new APIs, like so we can stay consistent and UI doesn't need to make their decision.
Yeah, so the current, yeah, we can do that. Like there isn't a decision. I have a question also to make a decision on that, because the current approach is that if we are having some, if we want to filter something on the basis of query program, that means that query param, we can pass an array inside that query param, and we like you can use that query param multiple times. This is the approach currently we are heading towards. And filter is for those types in which you can type once. Like if you want to filter on the basis of subtype, you can type once. So but we require an approach that either we can use a filter to pass multiple times, or we should be having those filters as a separate query program. So this is the question that I think you are asking. This will clear the doubts. So you may we don't need to make the decision inside the UI that should I pass the query param or not. So yeah, so I hope that clears. If you have any question, I can clear that.
I think for this, the perfect example is that the API in user management cloud. Because when I've implemented the filter there, like I don't have to call any extra API for that. Like the set filter was doing, the backend was doing each and everything. Like if you want to filter on roles or status or anything like, or any other parameters. For like these sections, like if I was adding filter for status and kinds, so there were APIs, so I have to fetch an extra like a call trigger another API to filter those parameters.
Okay, if that is the requirement, then I will add that in there, because status and kinds are already supported in the cloud. I just didn't add it over here because there was not requirement, but it's a small update. I will do that. So you don't need to do the separate API, call the separate API. Any other questions? Okay, thank you. So these were the updates from my side.
I think that's a wrap. We have circumpassed our 1 hour time limit. So thank you all for joining, and don't forget tomorrow there would be a newcomers call. I think there would also be a build and release call. So make sure you join that as well. And we'll all meet you if you join the development call. We'll meet you next week. So thank you all for joining. I hope everyone has a great new year.
Yeah, even a happy new
Yeah.
year, you know,
Yeah,
and a great one too. I'm just messing with it's like my last chance to get a shot in at Pranav this year. So I gotta get it in. Wonderful. Hey, thanks for hosting, Pranav. That's great. I didn't mean to interrupt. Hey, happy new year. Happy new year.
Bye.
Great new year.